The Tsars of Russia. The Tsars ruled Russia beginning in 1547, when Ivan IV declared the Tsar to have power over all of Russia. They reigned until 1721, when Peter the Great was proclaimed Emperor of all Russia. Ivan IV was the first Grand Prince of Moscow to officially assume the title of Tsar. Ivan, commonly referred to as Ivan the Terrible, ruled by terror. He brutally killed and arrested hundreds of aristocrats who opposed the absolute reign of the Tsar. He formed a special police force that burned towns and villages, killed church leaders who criticized his governance, and forced nobles, ministers, merchants, and farmers to join the Tsar's service gentry. Ivan awarded lands to the service gentry in exchange for military and government services. The prosperity of these lands, however, required peasant labor. Ivan thus passed a series of laws binding peasants to the land as serfs. Because Russia's economic success depended heavily on serf labor, serfdom became the basis of Russian power. Despite Ivan's barbaric reputation, he nevertheless succeeded in acquiring land and wealth for Russia. During his rule, he expanded Russia's territory into Siberia and conquered the region along the Volga River. After the death of Ivan IV, the power of the Tsar weakened as Ivan's mentally deficient son, Fyodor I, also known as Fyodor the Bell-ringer for his devotion to the church and tendency to ring church bells as he traveled from town to town, took the throne. Fyodor left the task of governing Russia in the hands of his brother-in-law, Boris Godunov. When Fyodor died without an heir in 1598, the Zemsky Sobor, a national assembly with little power under Tsarist rule, elected Boris Tsar. Boris continued to gain popularity in his new appointment. He established educational and social reforms with the goal of matching the intellectual progress of Western Europe. He imported foreign teachers and encouraged young Russians to seek education abroad. Boris died of illness and a stroke in 1605. He was succeeded by his son, Fyodor II, who was murdered 3 months later by family enemies. During the end of Boris's reign, a man claimed by the Godunov family to be an exiled monk posed as Fyodor's supposedly assassinated younger brother Dmitri. In 1602, this false Dmitri invaded Russia with Polish troops that were supported by Russian nobles unwilling to pay taxes to Boris's government. The invasion initiated a decade-long period of civil war and political confusion in Russia, known as the Time of Troubles. Upon Boris's and Fyodor's deaths, the false Dmitri assumed the Russian throne only to be murdered a year later by high-ranking nobles who accused him of spreading Roman Catholicism. The assassination was led by Prince Vasily Shuisky, who was elected Tsar in 1606. Vasily gained little respect as Tsar, failing even to gain authority in the Russian capital of Moscow. Only the success of his army kept him on the throne, until Polish invaders took control of Moscow in 1610. 2 years later, the Russians succeeded in uniting their forces and recaptured the city. No one of royal birth, however, was left to take over the throne. Tsarist rule continued with the Zemsky Sobor's election of Michael I of the Romanov noble family. The Romanovs reigned for the next 300 years, until the February Revolution of 1917 ended imperialist rule. Michael I and his successors, Tsars Alexei I and Fyodor III, rebuilt the devastated Russian capital and extended Russia's control of Siberia eastward to the Pacific Ocean. Following Fyodor's death, rivalries within the Romanov family led to the Moscow Uprising of 1682, which resulted in the appointment of 2 half-brothers and sons of Alexei, Ivan V and Peter I, to the throne. The 2 boys, Ivan was 16 and Peter 10, ruled as co-czars under the counsel of Ivan's sister, Sophia, until Peter assumed full power upon Ivan's death in 1696. Peter was a powerful ruler. He improved Russia's military and expanded Russian territory to the Baltic Sea in the Great Northern War with Sweden. Peter's travels through Europe also inspired improvements to Russia's systems of government, commerce, and education. In 1721, Russia's state chancellor proclaimed Peter the Great, father of his country, emperor of all the Russians.